Hello beloved souls, thank you for tuning into the Spiritual Podcasts channel. This channel is all about good vibes, positive energy, and meaningful conversations, to keep this space welcoming for everyone. We kindly ask that comments stay respectful, kind, and in the spirit of the content shared here. We reserve the right to delete any comments that don't align with this intention. No hard feelings, just protecting the vibe. Thanks for being here and spreading the light. Please be cautious of anyone claiming to represent Spiritual Podcast and asking you for money, donations, or personal information. We will never ask you for money through comments, messages, or DMs. All official updates and content come only from this channel. If you see suspicious activity, please report it immediately. Stay safe and thank you for being part of our community. If you enjoy the video and its content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please be kind to other viewers of the channel. The video is about to start.
Welcome, learners, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into one of life's most profound and, let's be honest, challenging questions. It's one that often surfaces when we feel most vulnerable, maybe most broken. Is it truly possible to give thanks in everything?
Yeah.
It's provocative because, when suffering hits, when difficulty strikes, when you're facing what feels like a completely insurmountable obstacle, gratitude is usually the very last thing on your mind.
Oh, absolutely. It feels almost absurd sometimes.
Right. Almost dismissive of the pain.
Exactly. Dismissive of that raw, undeniable pain we experience. But our listener provided us with a truly fascinating lecture. It's quite comprehensive, actually.
Okay.
It bravely blends spiritual philosophy, ancient wisdom, and even modern psychology to get at this very question.
So what's our mission today?
Our mission in this deep dive is to meticulously unpack this radical idea. We want to move far beyond just simple platitudes,
Beyond the cliche.
Right. And discover how a deeper understanding of universal laws, our own agency, and the profound nature of divine love might fundamentally shift our entire perspective on life's inevitable challenges.
So it's not just about gritting your teeth and bearing it.
Not at all. It's about more than just enduring. It's really about finding profound meaning, finding purpose, maybe even finding growth, even in those moments that feel utterly meaningless. It helps us understand the why behind the what, especially for our most difficult experiences.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's unwrap this. The foundational concept here seems to start with a very fundamental, maybe often overlooked understanding of the divine. A sort of classical, deeply embedded law about God's essential relationship with us. The speaker in our source material really emphasizes this unwavering truth, citing the New Testament, specifically John chapter 4, verse 8.
And the absolute declaration there, the real core of this understanding, is incredibly simple. God is love.
Not has love, but is love.
Precisely. It's not presented as just an attribute, like one characteristic among many.
Yeah.
It's framed as God's very essence, his fundamental nature.
Okay.
And if you truly grasp that, if you internalize it, it means that absolutely nothing, God does nothing that comes from this divine source could ever lack a loving objective, a loving purpose.
Wow. So everything.
Everything. If the very fabric of the divine is love, that every single event that happens to us, every challenge, every joy, every sorrow we endure, it must inherently serve this underlying loving purpose. It completely reshapes how we see things.
Even the really negative stuff.
Yeah.
Like pain.
Yeah, even what we perceive as negative physical pain, emotional pain, is presented not as some kind of arbitrary punishment.
Is how it often feels.
Exactly, but rather as a didactic resource. That's the term used.
A teaching tool.
A sophisticated, divinely orchestrated teaching tool, born of God's immense and unwavering love. Its explicit design, the lecturer suggests, is to make us wake up.
Wake up to what?
Wake up to ourselves, perhaps. To our path. It's a mechanism for profound, often accelerated growth. A loving nudge, you could say. Even when, in the moment, it feels much more like a painful, disorienting shove.
Like there's a deeper curriculum at play.
That's the idea. One designed specifically for our spiritual evolution.
So for you, the learner, thinking about this, what's the practical takeaway? What's the implication of really internalizing this core belief?
Well, it's not just theology, is it?
No, it profoundly shifts the whole narrative around suffering. Suddenly, suffering isn't just random misfortune, or worse, some kind of arbitrary divine punishment.
Right.
Instead, it gets reframed as a profound, maybe highly personalized lesson. Imagine looking back at your toughest experiences, those moments where you felt utterly broken or lost or betrayed, and seeing them not as just chaotic acts of misfortune, but as tailor-made lessons, carefully designed specifically for your unique spiritual and personal growth.
It implies every event the easy and the incredibly hard, serves a deeper, loving purpose for our ongoing evolution, pushing us towards, greater awareness, maybe self-mastery.
Does that perspective take away the pain? Maybe not immediately.
Probably not immediately, no. But it injects meaning, doesn't it? Into experiences that might otherwise feel just utterly, crushingly meaningless.
That idea of pain as a teacher, it really forces a rethink. But then the lecture dives into something even more fundamental, something that shapes our ability to even accept this idea. The concept of reincarnation.
Ah, yes. This is pivotal.
This is where it gets really critical for understanding gratitude in all circumstances, especially, I imagine, for those who don't embrace the idea of multiple lives, the multiplicity of existences, as the source calls it.
It's a critical point, and it raises that huge question.
Yeah.
How can we possibly reconcile seemingly unjust suffering, truly horrific suffering sometimes, with the idea of a loving, all-powerful God? Especially if our view is limited to just this one finite lifetime.
It seems impossible.
It does. The speaker recounts a really powerful, frankly heart-wrenching anecdote that just lays this dilemma bare. A man survived a horrific car accident, but tragically lost his wife and his 2 young daughters, 14 and 3 years old.
Oh, terrible.
And to compound it, he himself was an orphan. So this loss left him utterly alone.
Unimaginable.
The immediate, unfiltered reaction from the young audience listening to this story was incredibly telling.
Yeah.
They just cried out with understandable emotion. It's unfair. You're such a good person. How could you have to pass through a thing like this?
It's the natural human reaction, isn't it?
Completely. And without that conception of multiplicity of lives, without the broader view that our soul's journey stretches far beyond this one physical experience, well, such a tragedy appears not just sad, but absurd. And without purpose.
Yeah.
It's more than just emotionally difficult. It becomes an intellectual block, a spiritual wall, really. It stops us from seeing any inherent justice or any deeper meaning. It can lead to just profound despair, a feeling of betrayal even.
That makes total sense. Without a bigger framework, how could you not see it as capricious and cruel? But the lecture then brings in the law of cause and effect.
Action and reaction.
Right, action and reaction, as the underlying principle that actually does try to address this perceived injustice. Can you walk us through how this law plays out? Not just the obvious ways, but maybe the more subtle, long-term stuff?
Sure. Think about it in the most immediate physical sense first. Like, if I punch this wall, I will feel pain.
Okay, direct consequence.
Or you throw a ping pong ball against a wall, it comes back. It's a direct, immediate, undeniable reaction to an action. The universe seems to operate with this kind of inescapable feedback loop.
Right.
But the speaker extends this concept way beyond the immediate, showing how reactions can be delayed, sometimes for years, or, according to this view, even lifetimes.
Okay, so not always instant karma.
Not always instant, no. Consider the example given quite relatable, I think. A 16-year-old who chooses not to study, decides formal education, rigorous learning, it's just not for them.
Right, avoids the hard work now.
Exactly. And in the immediate term, nothing overtly negative happens. In fact, they might feel like they've gained something, much time for video games or social media or whatever immediate pleasure.
Yes.
No instant consequences, no immediate pain.
Okay.
But then, fast forward in 10 years,
Sure.
the consequences, though delayed, are often profound, undeniable even. A potentially delayed financial standard of living, maybe a different level of social respectability compared to peers.
A sense of missed opportunity, perhaps?
Quite possibly, a pervasive sense of dissatisfaction. And at that point, the person might understandably look around and blame others, blame fate, blame their parents, whatever.
Because they forgot the choices they made 10 years ago.
Precisely. This human tendency to forget what we planted over just 10 years, let alone across the immeasurable span from one life to another, makes it incredibly easy to look at our present difficulties and just exclaim, "This makes no sense. I don't deserve this."
And that's where reincarnation comes back in.
Exactly. This is precisely where the concept of multiplicity of existences becomes crucial. It helps us understand that we are often, in fact, receiving what we planted in the past. It provides a consistent, just framework for understanding events that otherwise seem completely inexplicable, unfair, and purposeless.
So it's not about victim blaming.
No, it's presented less as blaming and more as acknowledging a grand ongoing process of learning, of balancing our spiritual accounts over a much longer timescale than we usually consider.
That's a really powerful lens. So for you, the learner, this isn't about justifying suffering in a punitive way, or saying every painful thing is direct punishment for some specific past sin.
Right.
It's more about understanding that our present experiences, the joys and the sorrows, might be echoes, reactions, lessons stemming from choices and actions made in previous lives.
It creates a framework for inherent, ongoing justice that spans way beyond a single lifetime.
A long view of consequence and growth, it suggests nothing truly happens without a reason rooted in this universal law. It tries to offer a sense of order to what often feels like pure chaos.
Exactly.
This idea of profound individual transformation, learning through experience, balancing cause and effect, it finds a powerful echo in another figure discussed, Paul the Apostle.
Oh, Paul. Yes.
The lecture gives a really unique, compelling perspective on his role, suggesting that Jesus, in a way, needed a kind of CEO.
A CEO, yeah.
For the burgeoning multinational company that was early Christianity, a dynamic force to spread the message beyond its origins.
And the fascinating insight there is Paul's almost unparalleled suitability for this massive global task. The source material paints him as not just highly intelligent, deeply learned in Jewish law.
Which he was.
Absolutely. But crucially, he was also versed in several languages. He understood other cultures, which is vital for any cross-cultural mission work. Right?
Essential.
This made him, in the speaker's analogy, the most refined creature for this function. Perfectly positioned to take the gospel out of Judea to the rest of the world, translating its spiritual truths for all sorts of different audiences.
And his story, particularly that dramatic, blinding Damascus Road encounter, it's not just a conversion story, is it?
No, it reveals a pivotal shift, not just in his beliefs, but in his fundamental approach to life, to his mission, and importantly, how he processed his own past actions, his persecutions.
And what's truly striking is how the lecture describes Paul's reaction to meeting Jesus. It wasn't overwhelming guilt or paralyzing self-blame for persecuting Christians, which was severe. It was something very different, something really instructive for us.
Exactly. This is where Paul offers a kind of masterclass in personal accountability and transformation. Most of us, right, if suddenly confronted by a powerful spiritual mentor or a divine presence about our huge mistakes.
Especially mistakes that harmed others.
Right. Especially ones as grave as persecuting innocent people. We'd likely fall into a spiral of lamentation. We'd probably cry out, "Oh, forgive me, how wrong I was. Look at all the terrible things I've done. I'm so unworthy."
That feels like the natural human response.
It does. But Paul, in that critical moment, doesn't waste precious time on self-recrimination, on wallowing in guilt or self-pity. His immediate and singular question is totally pragmatic, forward-looking.
What is it?
Okay, now I understand you are the right person. What do you want me to do?
Wow. Straight to action.
Straight to action. He doesn't lose time in blaming himself. He takes responsibility and wants to change. This immediate pivot from self-condemnation to purposeful, active engagement, this desire for rectification, it's a defining characteristic of his journey and a powerful lesson for anyone wrestling with past errors.
And to underline this further, it's striking that Jesus doesn't then hand Paul some detailed itinerary.
No roadmap.
Right. No specific instructions like, okay, change your name to Paul, spend exactly 3 years in the Arabian desert, then go found these specific churches in Rome, Colossae, Thessalonica, and by the way, you'll eventually be beheaded by Nero on this date.
Wouldn't we love that sometimes? That clear, unambiguous path? But no, Jesus offered nothing like that to Paul.
So what does that tell us?
Well, placing this in a broader context, it shows that spiritual growth, our life's mission, it often doesn't come with a precise, step-by-step roadmap or a fully detailed divine blueprint.
We wish it did.
We often wish for it. But instead, Jesus gives a surprisingly simple, almost understated directive. Enter the city, surrender, believe in me, and act in good.
Simple but profound.
Incredibly profound. The lesson embedded here is that at every moment we are tested, not just in the big life-altering decisions, but in the thousands of small daily choices we make.
The little things.
Exactly. We're called to be faithful in the small things, in our integrity, our kindness, our diligence. And it's through this consistent faithfulness that we become faithful in the big.
So Paul's huge mission wasn't prescripted.
Not in detail, no. It was molded, it developed, it was revealed as he showed the competencies he himself developed. Through his consistent action, his dedication, his unwavering commitment to acting in good, rather than just following some pre-written script, it really empowers individual initiative, doesn't it?
It really does. For you, the learner, this implies a profoundly liberating message. Instead of dwelling endlessly on past mistakes caught in cycles of guilt.
Which is so easy to do.
Or passively waiting for a complete divine blueprint for your life to just magically appear. The path forward is to actively embrace responsibility. Start acting in goodness right where you are with what you have.
Your mission isn't set in stone in every detail. It unfolds, it takes shape. It gets molded through your developing capabilities and your faithful, consistent actions.
It asks us to trust the process, even when the next step isn't totally clear.
Trust the process and trust ourselves to navigate it.
This deep dive keeps circling back to the power of conscious choice, our agency in shaping our experience. And this thread leads us right to Paul's wisdom again in his letter to the Thessalonians.
Yes, 1 Thessalonians.
Chapter 5, verses 16 to 22. Particularly relevant for cultivating gratitude. In everything, give thanks. Examine everything, retain the good, abstain from every appearance of evil.
That specific advice raises a really important question about how we consciously process the world, how we interact with its constant challenges, without getting completely overwhelmed by negativity.
So examine everything doesn't mean be naive.
Not at all. It doesn't mean turn a blind eye to reality or ignore difficulties. Quite the opposite. It implies a keen, observant awareness. It means I have to observe people. I have to know there are bad people, mistaken people capable of hurting me, or situations that are genuinely difficult. You need to be fully present and informed.
Okay, observe, but then what?
But then, and this is the crucial transformative part, Paul says, I will not retain myself in this.
Don't hold on to it.
Exactly. Observe the negativity without internalizing it, without allowing it to take root in your mind and define your inner landscape. The lecture really emphasizes that while we acknowledge the undeniable existence of difficult people, tough situations, even profound evil, we don't let those things consume our inner peace, or dictate our emotional state, or become the single focus of our consciousness.
It's about conscious discernment, protecting your inner space.
Yes, precisely. Conscious discernment and actively protecting that inner space.
And to really drive this home, this difference between observing and retaining, the lecture uses a simple but really illustrative analogy for the appearance of evil, the shadow.
Such a powerful image. The key insight comes from the question posed. Are you seeing this shadow on my hand? Does it exist, or is it merely the lack of light?
Is it real or just an absence?
Right. And this isn't just semantics, it's presented as a foundational understanding. The speaker then extends this metaphor to deeper, more complex issues. Does war truly exist as a fundamental thing, or is it simply the tragic lack of peace? Is hatred only the absence of forgiveness?
Wow, that reframes things dramatically.
It does. The powerful conclusion drawn is that in essence, only good exists. In appearance and temporarily, evil exists.
Temporarily.
This perspective is incredibly hopeful. It suggests evil isn't some opposing fundamental force, but merely a temporary absence or distortion of good. It even implies that the most perverse people will one day be angels, underscoring this universal potential for evolution, for returning to our intrinsic divine nature.
That gives us a lot of power, doesn't it?
Immense power, because it means we have the profound ability to choose what we believe in, what we emphasize, where we direct our focus. Do we dwell on the temporary, illusory appearance of evil, or on the eternal underlying essence of good? That choice fundamentally shapes our reality and our capacity for gratitude.
That concept, evil as just the absence of good, is really paradigm shifting. And this choice of focus extends deeply into our relationships, how we see others, which is critical for navigating daily life with compassion.
Absolutely.
The lecture talks about a dynamic where Juan stimulates the worst side in Pedro, and Pedro sees the worst side in João, but then Marta saw the best side in Pedro.
It illustrates a fundamental truth, doesn't it? Sometimes it's not that Pedro is bad, it's because we're seeing only his worst side. Or maybe, inadvertently, our own internal state or expectations are actually stimulating that worst side in him.
We all have both sides, the light and the shadow.
We all possess this inherent duality. Paul himself notes it so poignantly in Romans 7:22, when I want to do good, evil is with me. It highlights this constant internal struggle. We have both potentials inside us, and we tend to project these onto others.
But we can choose.
That's the crucial insight. We have the agency to choose which side to cultivate in ourselves, and just as importantly, which side to actively look for and focus on when interacting with others. If we consistently seek the worst in people, well, that's often exactly what we'll find, and maybe what we'll elicit from them too. Our perception can be a powerful magnet.
Building on that, there's a really wonderful anecdote about a politician. Despite knowing certain people actively hate him, want to destroy him, he greets them by consciously focusing not on their current anger, but on their future self.
Yes, that's such a powerful demonstration of applied wisdom. He greets not her, but the person she will be one day when she awakens.
That takes incredible discipline.
It's an act of profound compassion, but also incredibly disciplined, conscious choice. A steadfast refusal to get dragged into the negativity or react in kind. He acknowledges reality. He knows who you are in this moment, recognizes their hostility or misunderstanding.
He's not naive.
Not at all. But then he adds, I also wish you all the best, extending that potential for connection. And crucially, he chooses not to take you home to sleep with you in my memory.
What a phrase.
Isn't it? It highlights the vital importance of protecting your mental and emotional space, reserving that precious inner sanctuary for those you love, for positive thoughts, for your mission. This proactive choice allows him to maintain inner peace and focus despite external hostility. It's a masterclass in emotional resilience.
So for you, the learner, this is an incredibly powerful, practical tool for daily life. It's about actively choosing which channel to tune into the best or the worst of the world.
And recognizing you have the agency to see people not just for who they seem to be right now, but for who they can become. A sort of I-future vision.
It's a call to see the world clearly, but then consciously, intentionally, retain only the good. Filter actively. Protect your inner space from bitterness and negativity. That active filtering must cultivate gratitude.
It has to.
Now, we often hear phrases like, God permitted it after tragedies, plane crashes, natural disasters, devastating losses that seem so random. But the lecture really probes the complexities, even the contradictions in that idea. It shows why it's maybe not as simple or comforting as it sounds.
Right. That phrase, while often said with good intentions, can create a huge theological and emotional dilemma when you really think about it.
Okay.
The speaker challenges it with a sharp question. If God did not allow one person to board a fatal flight, maybe their alarm didn't ring, they missed a connection, implying divine intervention saved them.
Okay.
But then my son entered that same flight and died. Then who allowed that? God too.
Ah, the inconsistency.
Exactly. This seeming arbitrariness of divine intervention is precisely why, for many, understanding gratitude in all circumstances feels not so simple. It can lead to immense confusion, anger, a profound sense of abandonment.
Yeah, I can see that.
The lecture mentions the Golair Airlines crash in Brazil. A surgeon tragically lost his wife and infant daughter on that flight, prompting that universal agonizing question, why me?
How do you answer that within this framework?
Well, for those with a spiritual understanding that embraces the eternity of the soul, multiplicity of lives, the perspective shifts. From that viewpoint, for God there was no death if we are eternal. We are merely called to return at any moment. Our true existence continues beyond the physical.
So it reframes death as a transition.
A transition, yes, rather than an absolute end. Though it's crucial to acknowledge, the lecture implies that the pain of earthly separation is still incredibly real and deeply felt. It doesn't negate the grief.
That recontextualization is key. This brings us to another profound story, Job, from the Old Testament. The lecture reinterprets Job beyond just a simple test of faith by God.
Right. Offers a deeper, more consistent explanation that aligns with that universal law of cause and effect.
How so?
What stands out is how the speaker reframes Job's story. It's not presented as a literal conflict between Satan and God to prove Job's loyalty.
Which can be a troubling interpretation, like God making a bet.
Exactly. It can imply God having an identity crisis or engaging in a celestial wager, which is unsettling. Instead, Job's story is understood as a powerful parable designed to illuminate the law of cause and effect operating across lifetimes.
So what's the key moment for Job?
The pivotal moment isn't his initial complaints, but his ultimate profound statement. Why do you persecute me? For the root of all accusation is found in me.
Wow. He takes responsibility.
It's revealed as a moment of incredible spiritual insight. Not self-blame in a punitive way, but understanding. Job grasps that his suffering stem not from divine whim or some arbitrary test, but from the immutable operation of universal law. He realizes he was passing through what he deserved to pass, implying his current experiences were a consequence, a balancing of accounts from his broader spiritual journey.
That's deep understanding.
It is, and this insight is powerfully mirrored in Jesus' words to Peter at Gethsemane, when Peter draws a sword.
To defend Jesus.
Yes. Jesus says in Matthew 26.52, all who draw the sword will die by the sword. This directly echoes Job's earlier, almost prescient warning. Fear the sword, because the fury of the sword brings punishment. In both cases, these figures in their deepest trials point to inherent consistent justice in the universe, an inescapable truth that our actions generate corresponding reactions, even if delayed.
Okay, so there's this strict justice, this law of cause and effect, but it seems so harsh. How does mercy fit in? Doesn't mercy contradict the law?
That's the crucial balancing act. How does boundless mercy soften this immutable law without just canceling it out? The lecture explains it with a powerful, almost mathematical analogy.
Okay.
It highlights divine generosity. If we shit right once, we gain 10 points. If we make mistakes 10 times, we lose 1 point because of his mercy.
So good deeds are weighted much more heavily.
Immensely more heavily. It illustrates an incredibly generous divine ledger. Positive actions are amplified significantly, and mistakes, when met with genuine effort to learn and change, are softened by grace. It's presented not as a punitive system, but a restorative one.
That's comforting.
Very. Jeremiah 3.22-23 highlights this constant renewal. The Lord's mercies are new every morning. It implies we constantly get fresh starts, clean slates, divine help to correct our path and realign with love.
And there's a story illustrating this.
Yes, the story of St. John Bosco as a mischievous child. Perfect illustration. Young Bosco broke a pot. Then, showing real understanding and remorse, he cleaned it all up. And he even presented his mother with a stick for his deserved punishment, fully acknowledging his mistake.
He owned it completely.
Completely. And her response was profoundly merciful and wise. I hit you so you understand you made a mistake. You understood, corrected your error, and still put yourself before the punishment you don't deserve to be hit.
Wow. Because he'd already learned the lesson.
Exactly. It's a vivid demonstration of mercy being extended not arbitrarily, but when true responsibility is taken, when there's internal correction, a genuine desire for change. It's about learning the lesson, not just enduring the consequence.
So for you, the learner, this is a powerful, liberating message. While universal laws are just and consistent, divine mercy is boundless. It acts as a profound buffer. Admitting our errors, taking sincere responsibility, actively working to transform ourselves to correct the error, like John Bosco did, that opens the door wide to this incredible mercy.
It reminds us that a gesture of love covers a multitude of sins. Our efforts towards goodness and change can significantly outweigh and mitigate past missteps.
So we're not condemned by our past. We're consistently invited to learn, grow, and receive grace through our genuine efforts to improve.
That's the hopeful message, yes.
Our deep dive then contrasts gratitude with its direct opposite, lamentation, which the speaker describes pretty bluntly as often stemming from an infantile ego.
Yes, quite direct. Placing this in context, lamentation is presented as a fundamentally self-centered complaint, an almost obsessive focus on one's own perceived suffering above all else.
Like tunnel vision.
Exactly. The speaker, drawing on his experience as a psychologist, describes patients who genuinely believe no one can suffer more than them.
We've probably all felt that at times.
Oh, sure. But when he tries to compare their pain to others' experiences, not to diminish it, but to offer broader perspective, context, they often get irritated because it feels like their unique suffering is being downplayed or not fully acknowledged. This same self-centered view, the lecture suggests, applies to prayer. God attends to our fundamental needs, not our fleeting caprices.
Needs versus wants.
Right. The speaker contrasts the self-pity of a wealthy person lamenting unhappiness and luxury versus the urgent, desperate needs of a starving child. The divine response, in this view, isn't to indulge superficial desires or self-focused complaints, but to address genuine needs and facilitate true growth.
So how do we actively move beyond that lamentation, that self-centered approach? The lecture offers a powerful triple metaphor for life.
Yes, this is really insightful. The idea that life itself is simultaneously a school, a hospital, and a workshop.
School, hospital, workshop. Okay.
This triad encapsulates our whole spiritual journey. As a school, we're here to learn lessons. As a hospital, we're here to heal from past errors, past wounds, imperfections. And as a workshop, we're here to actively transform, to refine our character, and to contribute.
And there's a paradox in there.
A fascinating counterintuitive paradox for the spiritual worker. The one who spends the most time in the spiritual house, the hospital aspect of life, is often themselves in the ICU, deeply wounded.
So how do they heal?
They find their own healing by helping the patient in the next bed.
Wow.
The speaker emphasizes powerfully, my medicine is fraternity. Service is healing.
That's not just a feel-good saying then.
No, it fundamentally shifts the focus away from passive suffering and self-pity towards active contribution, communal healing, genuine outward-focused service. It's about transforming my own life as well as others. By engaging in acts of service, compassion, fraternity, we are simultaneously refining in my soul something much more advantageous. We find our own path to healing and growth through helping others. It's a virtuous cycle.
A profound way to see service as self-healing. And this transformation, moving from lamentation to purposeful action, is underpinned by something often misunderstood: the neutrality of laws, including discipline. We usually see discipline as restrictive.
Right, as limiting freedom. But the speaker quotes the Brazilian musician Renato Russo, offering a paradoxical insight. Discipline is freedom.
Discipline is freedom. How does that work?
It seems contradictory, but think about it. Universal laws, like cause and effect, are inherently neutral. They just operate consistently, impartially. Everything you do comes back to you, good and bad.
Okay.
The surprising extension is that it takes much discipline for a life to go wrong, or for a marriage to fail. It doesn't happen suddenly or by chance. It unfolds through days and days of indifference, through consistent, disciplined, albeit misguided, negative, or neglectful choices.
So discipline isn't just about good habits, it's about all consistent effort.
Exactly. It redefines discipline, not as something imposed from outside, but as the consistent application of effort, whether directed towards constructive or destructive ends. Understanding this reveals our immense power to shape our own lives.
So for you, the learner, what's the practical takeaway from recognizing this neutrality of discipline? How does it empower change?
It means you possess the immense, inherent power to change the focus, change the vector of your life at any given moment.
Okay.
The same discipline that might have been previously misapplied, leading to outcomes you didn't want, persistent challenges can now be consciously, intentionally redirected to transform your life in profoundly positive ways. Right now. The message is incredibly empowering and urgent. There is no moment to change. At any moment, we can and should change. There's no magical future date, no perfect set of circumstances needed. The power to adjust your trajectory, to apply discipline constructively, is always here in the present, just waiting for your conscious choice and effort.
The lecture also makes a strong case for suffering itself as a catalyst, not meaningless evil, but a productive force for this kind of transformation.
That's a powerful, often challenging concept for sure. What stands out is the idea that tribulation is productive. While definitely not pleasant, it serves a vital, maybe indispensable purpose in our growth. Well, pain arrives so clearly that there is no doubt left. It hurts to be like this. It's imposing, it's forceful. It cuts through our illusions, our ego, our procrastination. It effectively pushes us to change when we might otherwise resist or delay.
And this applies collectively too.
Historically, yes. Collective suffering has often been the very engine of profound progress. Think of the huge societal shifts catalyzed by immense pain, the French Revolution, the U.S. Civil War, tragic events that ultimately led to significant, albeit painful, societal advancements and redefinitions.
And individually.
Individually, pain has a powerful way of lowering our ego. Stripping away vanity and arrogance, putting us in a condition of equals with others, fostering empathy, humility that builds perseverance and hope, precisely because when all our personal resources fail, when we've exhausted every solution we can think of, often all that's left is surrender, trust.
Letting go.
That profound moment of letting go. It's beautifully captured in the classic Footprints in the Sand poem, right?
Yeah.
In our deepest pain, we realize we're being carried by something greater.
And there's that touching anecdote about Chico Xavier and his friend with cancer again, illustrating choosing to learn through love or knowledge, not just pain.
Yes, this anecdote really brings it home with such clarity and emotion. Chico Xavier's friend was gravely ill, testicular cancer, weighed only 36 kilograms, nearly 2 meters tall.
Wasting away.
Exactly. And fully resigning himself to death, believing Jesus is calling me. He thought it was his time.
But Chico disagreed.
Chico offered a radical alternative. He advised his friend, tell Jesus you won't go. You want to learn. He insisted the friend tell Jesus with conviction, no, I won't go, I want to learn.
And the friend did it.
Remarkably, yes. He chose to learn. He embraced the idea of staying, growing, engaging with life's lessons, and against all medical odds, he recovered.
Incredible.
When he later visited Chico to celebrate this miraculous healing, Chico offered him his special tea, which, to the friend's delight, turned out to be Coca-Cola.
Ha!
Why Coke? It was Chico's most cherished hidden indulgence, kept secret because of his diabetes. It was Chico's profound, personal way of celebrating a life chosen for healing and learning, not just suffering and resignation.
Is it beautiful?
It delivers a profound message. Spiritism, this spiritual philosophy, does not preach suffering and pain as a condition for evolution. Pain is the last didactic resource of God, not an imposition, not a prerequisite.
We have a choice.
We have a choice. We can choose to learn by love, by knowledge, or by pain. Pain is the final, most forceful teacher, often the most effective, but it's not the only path available.
Our deep dive culminates with Jesus' teachings, particularly the parable of the Good Samaritan, which just profoundly challenges our definition of neighbor, doesn't it? Stretches our compassion way beyond our comfort zones.
Absolutely. The parable starts with a doctor of the law, an expert, knowledgeable man testing Jesus, asking what he must do to inherit eternal life.
And Jesus turns it back on him.
With characteristic wisdom, what do you read and what do you understand in the law? The lawyer answers correctly, citing the great commandment, love God and your neighbor as yourself.
But he doesn't stop there.
No. Seeking to justify a more limited scope of compassion, he immediately asks, but who is my neighbor?
Trying to narrow it down.
Exactly. That question, seemingly innocent, reveals that common human tendency to define and thereby limit who deserves our love and compassion. Usually to those in our own tribe, our religion, our social circle, an attempt to shrink the expansive command of universal love.
And the lecture points out a subtle but crucial detail. The man who was robbed descended from Jerusalem to Jericho. That's symbolic.
Highly symbolic, according to this interpretation. Placing it in context, Jerusalem symbolizes a superior spiritual plane, spiritual height, divine connection, higher principles. Jericho, in contrast, represents an inferior material plane, a city full of luxury and pleasures, materialism.
As if he was moving away from the spiritual.
He actively descended, making himself both literally and spiritually vulnerable to the moral vultures of the road, the robbers, the dangers, the spiritual temptations that prey on those who move away from higher principles towards solely material pursuits. His descent made him susceptible, a consequence of his path.
And then came the people you'd expect to help. The priest, the Levite, religious figures.
Right, figures of authority, knowledge, supposed piety. But they passed by.
Why?
The priest, perhaps bound by ritual law forbidding touching a potentially dead body before temple service, though the man was only injured, he passed by. The Levite, his assistant, also passed by, prioritizing form, custom, maybe self-preservation over immediate human suffering. Both had knowledge, high status.
But then the Samaritan comes along, an outcast to the Jews.
The despised outcast.
Yeah.
Considered religiously impure, a subrace. This is the profound twist. He acts not out of religious obligation, not out of intellectual understanding of the law, but because he was moved by intimate compassion.
From the heart.
Purely from the heart. He did not have the knowledge or status of the others, but he saw a suffering human being first. He meticulously cared for the man, took him to an inn, paid for his care, promised to cover extra costs. Pure, unadulterated love in action. Fraternity.
Jesus' final question to the lawyer is so powerful. Who was the neighbor in this situation? And the lawyer can't even say the word Samaritan.
You can't. He just says, maybe through gritted teeth, he who was moved by compassion.
Wow.
This reluctance shows how deeply the truth of the parable broke his paradigm of faith, shattered the comfortable idea that ritual status or strict adherence to form was more important, more meritorious than genuine selfless action, radical compassion.
So the message is?
Breathtakingly simple, universally applicable. We may not have any faith denomination or practice or religion, but if we are moved by compassion, we are with Jesus. Conversely, the danger lies in having mouths full of words but hearts without compassion. Outward piety or knowledge masking inner emptiness. It's a call to practical, actionable love.
Not just intellectual belief.
Embodied love.
So, for you, the learner, what's the truly transformative message here? This deep dive emphasizes Jesus isn't just an object of worship, revered from afar.
Right. It raises the question, if he's not just an object of passive worship, what is he for us in our daily lives? The lecture asserts, unequivocally, he's always will be for us a model of behavior.
A model to emulate, not just adore.
Exactly. A profound call to follow his example in our own actions, thoughts, feelings. The speaker cites that beautiful children's song, to love as Jesus loved, to dream as Jesus dreamed, to live as Jesus lived, to smile as Jesus smiled, to feel what Jesus felt.
Simple, but covers everything.
For only then, at the end of the day, would you sleep much happier.
This isn't just theology, it's practical living, embodying spiritual principles. True peace, genuine happiness, lasting fulfillment, the deep dive concludes. It comes not from knowledge alone, not from intellect or ritual,
but from action. From the practical evidence that knowledge has become in our hands an object of compassion. When our deepest spiritual understanding translates into tangible, loving action, that's when we truly align with the divine model and experience the profound gratitude that comes from a life lived in service and love.
What an incredible journey. Challenging, yes, but ultimately so uplifting. This whole idea of cultivating gratitude in every single circumstance. We've explored how seeing a fundamentally loving God, understanding universal laws like cause and effect across lifetimes, and harnessing the transformative power of actively choosing our perspective, how all that can radically redefine our relationship with suffering.
And challenge us all to live with profound, actionable compassion.
Indeed. This deep dive offered such invaluable insights, pushing us to embrace responsibility for our choices, find the didactic purpose in pain, not just see it as punishment.
And understanding that divine mercy is always there, softening the blows of justice when we're genuinely willing to learn, take responsibility, commit to change.
It's a powerful call to actively, consciously participate in our own ongoing spiritual growth.
That really is.
So for you, the learner, as you reflect on all this, here's a final provocative thought. If we truly believe that God's love is ultimately behind everything that happens, and that our lives are this continuous school of learning and evolution, then what single difficult situation are you currently facing that you can choose, starting today, to reframe, to see it as a profound lesson rather than just a self-centered lament?
Good question.
And maybe connected to that, what small, tangible act of compassion can you engage in today in your immediate sphere, your family, your work, your community? An act that might just be the very remedy needed on your own path, transforming both yourself and maybe those around you in the process.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful and blessed day.